Hello, everybody. This is Andy Heller, president of Regular Riches. And one of the most common questions investors have is this a good rental property? Should I buy this property? So there's lots of software out there that can help investors determine what the right rent to charge is. We have that. We offer this in our educational material too. But I'm going to give you 3 tips that if you do these 3 things when you're buying property, you're probably 90% of the way there to making money as a landlord. So let's start off with the 3 things, and then I'm going to come back at the end and tell you what these 3 things have in common. Step number 1, and this step is ignored by many rental landlords. Well, that home over there's really good schools, so we're going to buy that home and make it a rental. The fact that there's good schools is not insignificant. I'll be talking about that later. But first point is focus on your acquisition price and make sure you're getting a discount when you buy the property. So in other words, a lot of investors, they buy because they like the home, they like the subdivision, they like the schools, but they're not getting an investor discount upon acquisition. Why is that so important? As little as a 10% investor discount can make the difference between cash flowing at $300 positive per month and breaking even or even being upside down. So focus on your acquisition price and be sure that you have a discount that's appropriate for whatever market you're investing in. The name of our strategy, our real estate investing strategy, is buy low, rent smart, sell high. And I often teach when I'm in front of students and doing my seminars, there's a reason why it's not rent smart, sell high. Because a foundational principle before we start to rent is making sure our cost basis on the property is lower than investors who are paying retail. That's why you've got to be buying these properties you intend to rent at an investor discount. The next item is make sure that your rental strategy encourages long-term tenancy. I did a seminar a few months ago, and I asked the active investors to raise their hands and let us know their average tenancy. Well, I'll tell you, and these are active investors, okay? That number was between 1 and 2 years was a typical tenancy. Well, back to that rule. The longer tenants stay in your home, the more money you're likely to make. So you want to choose a rental strategy where you're not having a vacant home every 1 to 2 years. Why is that important? Almost always, when you have a vacancy, you will have, at minimum, to replace carpet and paint, replace the flooring, and at least do an interior paint job. And that's going to set you back between $6,000 on the low end and probably about $15,000 on the high end for a middle income property. That's a lot of money to be coming up with every couple years. What if your tenants are staying an average of 7 or 8 years? That's an additional 5 years where you're not coming up with that money. All right? And they're staying in that property, and every year you're getting your rents up, your margins are increasing, and that's how you make money. So, we do not rent properties. we offer our properties under a lease purchase. And the starting point, the minimum amount of time in our leases, 3 years. And so many of these families who do not buy at the end of the 3 years, and they like the home, they ask for, and we grant them an extension. And some of these families buy 2, 3, 4 years into the extension. Most of them, if they haven't bought within the first 7 or 8 years, they're not going to buy. But they continue to stay in the homes and rent them over and over again. So how is this played out? Well, still today, we have the second home we ever bought, and the family's been in there for over 30 years. Okay, let me restate that. The same family has been in that property with a right to buy it for more than 30 years. We put it on a 15-year note. In effect, that family bought our property. But here's what's exciting. That's not an aberration. We have many other examples. 25 years, 28 years, 20 years, 17 years, 15 years, 14 years. This type of long-term tenancy is simply not possible, or possible is the wrong word. It's not likely, it's not common when you're purely renting property. You attract a more transient family, and at some point they will move on. Okay? And then when they move on, you have your costs. The third thing we do look for, we do look at schools. Now, not always the top tier schools, but we want schools rated at least average to higher. Okay? Why is that important? Well, because families are likely to stay if their kids are enrolled in public schools where they're getting a good education and meeting other children who also value education. Let's say, for example, a family moves into a home, poorly rated school systems, all right? Good family, you got a great home, you fixed it up well, but the schools just aren't good. The family would like to stay. Your home is close to where the husband and wife work. But the son comes back from school and the son continues to get in trouble and hang out with the wrong crowd. Well, this family cannot afford private school, and they make the decision, the difficult decision, to move to a home where the schools are of higher caliber and their son is able to get a better education and less likely to get in trouble. This is very, very common. So if you buy properties in areas with at least average to above average schools, you're taking away one very common reason that good tenants eventually decide to leave your home. Now, let's examine, what do all three of those things have in common? I would even challenge you to press pause right now. See if you can figure it out for yourself. All right, we're going to unpause. What is the answer? What do these three things have in common? They are all three details that you, an investor, can put your finger on, can identify, and a box you can check before you buy the property in the first place. In other words, many of the things we investors do when we're buying properties and investing in properties in order to make more money are decisions and steps that we take once we've bought the property to maybe maximize value. Well, let me put in a nicer kitchen. I can then rent this property for an extra couple $100 a month. And within a couple years, that extra rent will offset the extra cost in the kitchen. These are very, very common things and decisions and considerations investors have, but these are after the fact after the purchase. These 3 tips, you can take this, bank it, and consider these factors before you commit to buying a property. And if you do these 3 things, you should make a lot more money. And these are 3 items that will help ensure that this rental that you're about to buy can be a great investment for you. I hope you've enjoyed that. Be sure to like this YouTube channel and come back for more. Thank you. This is Andy Heller.